Okay, let's get into it. We've got a set of sources here, all talking about AI governance and specifically professional certification.
Right. And one really stands out in these materials, the IAPP AIGP certification.
The Artificial Intelligence Governance Professional, yeah. So our plan for this deep dive, just using these sources, is to sort of unpack what they say is important about this AIGP cert.
And how they suggest you actually prepare for it.
Exactly. What are the key takeaways from these documents?
Well, the first thing that jumps out is how these sources, position the certification itself. It's not just presented as another line on a CV. They consistently frame it as a significant career booster. They use phrases like rapidly evolving field and high demand sector quite a bit.
Right. So the argument seems to be that getting this AIGP credential isn't just about learning the material. It's framed as a strategic play.
Definitely. A way to make yourself more marketable in a field that's, according to these sources, actively seeking people with these skills.
Okay. And why specifically the AIGP? What makes it valuable according to the sources?
It really boils down to validation. That's the core message. The sources emphasize that it validates your grasp of fundamental AI governance principles.
And they specify which ones.
Oh, yes. They specifically call out ethical AI development, data privacy, particularly the aspects unique to AI, and crucially, AI risk management frameworks. That seem to be the pillars.
So it's proof you understand the specific complexities AI introduces there, not just generic stuff.
Precisely. It shows you get the nuances within those domains as presented in the material.
Okay, so that's the why. What about the how? How do the sources suggest people prepare? They mention flexible online training.
Yes, that's mentioned as a foundational piece, lets you study on your own time, which makes sense. But they also get more specific about tools.
Like what?
Well, one thing they refer to is AIGP Dumps.
Dumps. Okay, what do the sources say those are?
The description provided is expertly validated exam question materials. That's the exact phrasing. They're positioned as a tool to sort of simplify preparation.
Simplify that.
By reinforcing understanding of those key principles we talked about, the ethics, privacy, risk stuff. That seems to be the angle.
Interesting phrasing. Expertly validated exam question materials. So, based purely on the sources, framed as a study aid. Is there anything else mentioned for prep?
Yes, there's also something called exam pass support.
Okay, what does that involve, according to the documents?
The sources detail it as including things like expert mentorship, updated study guides, and targeted training programs.
Right.
And the claim made within these sources is that using this kind of support, potentially alongside materials like those dumps, gives you a really comprehensive prep designed to build confidence, essentially.
Got it. So pulling it together from these sources, the AIGP certification is presented as really valuable for career growth in this key area. It validates knowledge of specific complex things like AI ethics, privacy, risk, and the path to getting ready, as laid out here, involves online training, the study aids described as AIGP dumps, and dedicated exam pass support.
Exactly. And looking at the overall picture these sources paint, it really highlights this perceived market need, a need for people who have a formally recognized handle on these governance issues.
Especially as AI keeps getting integrated everywhere, right?
That's the context they provide. Society, business, it's becoming pervasive.
You know, this focus in the source is on validating very specific principles, ethical development, data privacy, risk management. It makes me wonder,
Okay.
given that these sources put such emphasis on these areas for the AIGP, what does mastering precisely these principles really signify about the future role of an AI governance professional?
Yeah.
What does that specific validation imply about the job itself moving forward?
That's a great point. It strongly suggests, based on this material, that the role is fundamentally about being a kind of guardian,
Guardian of what?
of responsible innovation, making sure that as AI systems are developed and rolled out, they actually align with societal values, protect people's rights, and operate within acceptable risk levels, the very principles the certification covers.
Interesting perspective. So it's about enabling innovation, but responsibly.
That seems to be the core implication drawn from the way these sources frame the certification and its focus areas.
Fascinating stuff. And just to be clear for everyone listening, all these points, this entire discussion, it's drawn directly and solely from the stack of source materials we were given for this deep dive on the IAPP AIGP.
Absolutely. Purely reflecting what was in those documents.
Definitely gives you something to think about, especially as this whole field continues to take shape.